How do we divide an estate? What is fair division? Fair division is the process of dividing a set of goods or resources between several people who have an entitlement to them, such that each person receives his or her due share. So, the definition of fair division gives us a place to start. We have a method, an algorithm, that helps us to divide an estate. So we'll take a look in this video at the number of steps, 5 to be exact, on how one will go about dividing an estate using the process of sealed bids. Step 1. So this algorithm tells us that in step 1, each heir submits a bid for each item in the estate. Bids are not made on cash in the estate because cash can be equally divided without controversy. The main point to remember from this step is that each heir is bidding blindly. The process of sealed bids means that no heir or no player in this game has any idea what the other players or heirs are bidding. Step 2. A fair share is determined for each heir by finding the sum of his or her bids and dividing this sum by the number of heirs. If there is cash in the estate, its total is included in each heir's sum. So this process, this part of the process, liquidates all the assets. In other words, it attaches a dollar value to each asset in the estate. The dollar value is determined by each of the heirs. In other words, each heir is saying that a fair share is going to be determined by how much they think the item is worth. Step 3. Each item in the estate is given to the heir who bids the highest on it. So, if player A bids the highest on item number 2, player A receives item number 2. Step 4. Each heir is given an amount in cash from the estate that is equal to his or her fair share, and that's determined from step 2, less the amount the heir bid on the objects that he or she receives. If this amount is negative, the heir pays that amount into the estate's cash. So what this step is telling us, in a sense, is the fair share that we determined from step 2, we're going to subtract how much the player bid from that fair share. Once again, remember, each player or each heir determines what is a fair share, and from this fair share we're going to subtract how much they bid. And if that amount is negative, in other words, if they bid over what they said the fair share was, they have to pay that money into the estate. If they bid under, that means they receive money from the estate. Finally, any remaining cash in the estate is divided equally among the heirs. Now, we'll take a look at this example of Amanda, Brian, and Charlene, are heirs to an estate that includes a house, a boat, a car, and $150,000 in cash. Each heir submits a bid for the house, boat, and car in the following amounts. Amanda, $80,000, $5,000, and $8,000 respectively for the house, boat, and car. Brian, $70,000, $9,000, and $11,000 respectively for the house, boat, and car. And Charlene, $76,000, $7,000, and $13,000 for the house, boat, and car, respectively. Fair share is determined for each heir. So Amanda's fair share is determined as follows. Alright, so it's the sum of all her bids. So she bid $80,000 plus $5,000 plus $8,000 plus the cash in the estate. This total is going to be divided by 3 because there are 3 heirs or 3 players in this game. It turns out to be $81,000 as determined by Amanda to be the fair share. Brian determines that a fair share for each of the players or each of the heirs is $80,000, and Charlene determines that a fair share will be $82,000. So each item is given to the heir who bid the highest on it. So Amanda gets the house because she bid the highest on the house, Brian gets the boat, and Charlene gets the car. Each heir then receives cash equal to the difference between the fair share and the value of that item that they won. So in Amanda's case, $81,000 was what she claimed to be a fair share. She won the house, which was valued at $80,000, so she gets an initial amount of cash of $1,000. Brian said the fair share was $80,000, so he had an item that was won, that was the boat, that had a value of $9,000, so his initial cash is $71,000. And Charlene has initial cash value of $69,000, following the same idea. All right, she said a fair share is $82,000. She won the car that was valued at $13,000, so her initial cash was $69,000. For a grand total of $141,000 in initial spending, initial cash distribution. The cash that's given to the heirs is a total of $141,000, which leaves $150,000 minus $141,000, or $9,000 in their estate. Each heir therefore receives a bonus of $9,000 divided by 3, which is going to be $3,000. Okay, great. So Amanda, Brian, and Charlene, we could summarize the information as follows. The total of bids in cash would be as such: $243,000 for Amanda, $240,000 for Brian, $246,000 for Charlene. A fair share would be this number divided by 3, and so on. The items received would be as follows. The values of the items received would be as follows. Now the initial cash received is the difference between these two values, the fair share minus the values of items received. All right, so as we can clearly see, that's 1,000 in Amanda's case. And the share of remaining cash would be, we figured out that value from this step. All right, we said the remaining cash turned out to be 9,000. Break that up into 3 pieces. We get a total of, apologies, 3,000 each. So the final settlement would look like the following. Amanda gets the house and $4,000. Brian gets the boat and $74,000. Charlene gets the car and $72,000. So if you have any questions about where these numbers come from, we go back to our table and we look at the last 2 rows. All right, so the initial cash received was $1,000 plus the share of the remaining cash. So that's why she gets the house and $4,000. Brian gets the boat, and the sum of these 2 values, $74,000. Charlene gets the car, and the sum of these 2 values, $72,000. All right, so this is why we get the final